when we look at principles, and Elon is, one of the best as well when it comes to first principles.
Sure.
And we use that as our thesis to approaching new things. What are things people can do today based on first principles to maybe understand themselves a little bit better?
This is a great question. So before we even ask that question, let's go even deeper. Let's understand, how do you think in first principles? Because this is a question that doesn't get asked.
Yes.
We are never taught how to think in first principles. How do you think effectively? I see a lot of people trying to solve problems, but they're thinking about it wrong. And it's kind of like, if you have a faulty windshield, how are you going to drive properly? You need to clean that shit up before you can even actually learn how to drive. So the first step is to understand what it feels like to come to terms and read first principle thinking. What does it feel like to read a book like Ray Dalio? How do you tell truth from fiction? How do you tell something that's fundamentally strong and based on something real? In physics, the first principle is, the term comes from some science, from physics, where all of science is built on a bedrock of first principles, things you cannot falsify, like the speed of light. Right? It is a first principle. It's a foundational to a lot of the physics formulas that are derived slowly over time. Right? All of physics and science is derived directly from these fundamental principles.
Yeah, if that theory of speed of light breaks apart, all of physics breaks apart.
Exactly, right? And so, in the same way, recognizing, being able to, like, the first step is to learn for every human to recognize in themselves, how do you know what a first principle is? How can you tell apart a first principle from a second order or a third order principle? That's important. And to do that, it's important to surround yourself with thinkers like Elon and Ray that frequently think from that standpoint, from that basis. So you have a taste. It's kind of like you're able to taste good thinking. Because if most people have been living with shitty thinking all their life, you can't taste it. And you don't even know what you're missing out on. And so learning to surround yourself with good thinking and slowly understanding, okay, this makes sense. You start with that. You start there. Then you start to question some of the ways that you're thinking. Because thinking is essentially software, right? It's a fancy way. Like we are a carbon-based life form. Right? So most computers are silicon-based machines. But let's say if we had silicon-based software, we'd be able to update our thinking a lot faster. Sadly, don't. So we have carbon-based, which is going to take a lot longer to iterate. Journaling is a very good way of updating your software, updating your thinking, updating your decision-making, analyzing what are the things you did, what are the things you will do, what was the thinking behind your decisions that were faulty. Right? Where was the fault in logic? Very similar to how you would debug a program. You just look at, you got an output you didn't want. Okay, what happened? And it's not a thing where you necessarily need to take it personally. Your code, it's not moving the way you want it to. So how do we figure this out in a way that makes sense? When you put pen to paper, you recognize it. Cognition means to understand, to think, to process. You process the thinking, again, recognize, right? You recognize your thoughts on paper, and that changes and updates your thinking in almost real time, right? So an idea becomes real for the first time when you put it on paper, because it goes from like an intangible thought to a tangible word on a page. And as you start to do that, your processing becomes better. Your processing becomes better, and you're exposed to good thinking. You cannot but help update the person you are, the thinking that you're surrounding yourself with. That's a very effective way of being able to upgrade your own personality and your thinking, and therefore your actions and your results in life. So it's hard to fuck up when you're exposing yourself to really great thinking that you know for sure is fundamentally strong. And then slowly you start to apply it in your own life, just like anything else. It's a process of osmosis.
Okay. So let's say people, maybe whether they read Dalio's book or they dive in deep into first principle
Oh,
thinking.
by the way, there's a really good blog post by Tim Urban on the blog
Wait by Why. Yeah.
It's called The Chef, the Cook, and the Chef.
The chef, the cook, the chef.
No, sorry. The Cook and the Chef.
Cook and the chef.
Wait but Why. If you just
Okay.
Google this, it'll lead you to a long article. All of Wait but Why's articles are usually long, but they're very worth it. And he talks about how Elon Musk thinks, and he describes first principle thinking eloquently and beautifully with cartoons and shit. It's
Mhm.
really funny. So
But
really,
what's something people can do once, let's say they read that?
Okay.
What's something they can do afterwards, pen to paper? Are there questions they can ask themselves?
yeah. So what I would do is, I would read Principles by Ray Dalio. I would read section 1, like there is a part about principles, life principles. Read that section, and then very similar to what I did with the Seeking Wisdom book, which is go principle by principle and put pen to paper and ask yourself, how does this apply in my life? That's it. Understand a principle deeply, and then put pen to paper. Ask yourself, how does this principle apply in my life? How can I apply it more effectively? If you do that for that section, I will tell you your thinking is going to really significantly improve. And that's it. It's as easy and as hard as that. And I'm guaranteeing you less than 5% of the people listening will do that. It's hard work. It's hard thinking work. But if your thinking isn't in line, then your life is going to suffer because the results cannot be as precise as your thinking is.
Is there any advice you have or you've seen in experience for follow through?
To actually do the thing. Well, what is follow? What do you mean?
Like, for example, let's say you start this process
Okay.
and you go one by one based on first principle thinking, and you apply that to certain elements in your life,
Yeah.
and you write about it.
Yeah.
Is there any mechanisms or systems in place that can give you a greater chance of success
Yes.
to follow through on that?
Great question. So the one I did that I shared is accountability. That's a really great one. Just find someone else who's just as hungry as you are, or if not more hungry, which is ideal, and work with them. And say, hey, I want to do this. Do you want to do this too? We can help each other out. We can give each other feedback on each other's kind of thought processes, and we can make it kind of like a co-evolution experience. That's fun. That's a lot of fun because you get to go with someone. Doing anything with someone else who's also going the same place, it's just a lot of fun. What's the downside? It's kind of like having a gym buddy for your mind. Right? So that for sure. Get accountability. Find someone who is also interested in developing themselves in this way. That's like probably my best tip. The second best tip is if you're doing that, put some money on the line, whatever is meaningful to you. It could be like $50, it could be $100, it could be $1,000, like whatever is meaningful, and it will hurt if you lose it. Like that is your target, that is your mark of, okay, I want to do this, and that's it. And then that's pretty much like, if you have the right accountability, if you have the right stakes, and if you have the right rhythm, maybe just one principle a week. Don't overdo it. It'll take you maybe an hour or two. That's good. And just constantly surround yourself with good thinking and people that are getting the results you want. That's a really important one, right? So you look at Dalio, and he constantly talks about transcendental meditation and how valuable it's been for him and how consistent he is with his practice. That's remarkable to me. That's cool. Like I'm interested in a sliver of his results, but his thinking is just beautiful. You know, he's got these beautiful videos on YouTube, right? How the economic machine works.
Yeah, the macro, micro, yeah.
Exactly. Like a nice 30-minute video that he produced that is like out of his wisdom. It's beautiful. It's very simple but accurate. There's another video series he produced around this book, Principles, right? It's just like an animation. There are examples of how the principles work in action. And if you just constantly surround yourself with excellent thinking and people that are getting the results that you want, and making sure that you actually want those results. A lot of people want a house and a car, but really, they don't want that, right? They've been brainwashed by society and peers and advertisements and Instagram and things like that to want that. It's just the first layer. But if you put a pen to paper and you ask, what do I really, really, really want? I'll give you an example of what it looks like to get what you really want. Is you're familiar with Anderson Silva, obviously.
Fighter?
Right, exactly. Yeah. Right. Extraordinary fighter, first of all. There's a documentary made on him, also really good. But the parts that I was most impressed with him was actually after he wins the title. He's like a 6+ foot Brazilian man with a lot of pride, right? He like gets on his knees and he starts sobbing when he wins the title. Every time. That's a man who's got what he wants. It's a powerful emotional experience, man, to like really get what you want. And we all are capable of that emotion. We all are capable of feeling powerfully vindicated by life for having pursued what you truly want to pursue. But even knowing what that is takes digging, because you got to get through the house and the car and all this nonsense that's been programmed at you from birth, pretty much, right? From your parents, from your peers, from Instagram, all this bullshit. You have to get through this gunk down to the things that really matter to you. And that is a process that can only be done alone, with yourself, with your mind, with your body, with your heart, with your being. Right? Other people can ask you questions, but the true work is to be done alone, in introspection. You can get a therapist, you can get a coach, you can do all of these things, but fundamentally the work is yours.
This is why you're a huge proponent of meditation.
Exactly, because meditation allows you to get in touch with your being, with who you are. Like allow the thoughts and all the mental chatter to like subside, so you can sit down with who the fuck you are.
You do 2 sessions a day.
Yeah, 1 to 2 sessions a day.
Yeah.
My average is about 1, but I aim for about 2. Yeah.
And what's like an easy starter pack for people to get into meditation?
Headspace, man.
Headspace.
The
app.
Yeah. I'm not like I've been meditating for a long time, but for all the people that I've actually seen make some progress, Headspace is actually pretty good. I've seen some people get on and off Muse, but Headspace actually is more standard. I think the way to approach it is to say, a lot of people say, oh, I tried meditation once, didn't work for me. That's like saying I tried exercise once, it didn't work for me. It's basically the same thing.
I view meditation as exercise.
Exactly.
Mind, yeah.
But you can do a lot of things. You can run, you can lift,
yes.
You can swim, you can play hockey.
Hence many forms of meditation.
Exactly, right? So when someone wants to get into meditation, a big thing I say is, hey, this is like saying I'm interested in mind exercise, but you don't know which form of exercise you kind of like yet. So don't give up after trying 1 or 2. There are many ranges of meditations. There's TM, there's Headspace, there's like meditation studios popping up all over the city these days. There's all kinds. There's Vipassana, there's Insight, there's a lot, there's like different yogic meditations, Kundalini, all kinds of stuff, right? Figure it out. Like figure out what works for your disposition, for your personality. But dismissing like meditation based on like a few sessions isn't really sustainable. It's not a good, it's like going to the gym a couple of times and saying, it didn't work for me, I got sore muscles, right? It's a process you commit to. And if you're doing it, there's actually mindfulness-based stress reduction, MBSR, which is like I think about a 12-week guided program. So where you go in every week and you're instructed and you have sessions at home that you're supposed to go back and do. And over a 12-week period, it almost kind of helps you build a habit. and it's supposed to be a program that's like runs pretty much most cities, most major cities in the world. And if someone truly wants to build a habit, it's a pretty solid way to get started as well.
That's the thing. Most people, like, same thing with the gym. People try to go in like an hour a day. That's might be too much of a mental hurdle at the beginning to build that neural pathway as a habit. It's like, no, for example, I use on a daily basis. I use Calm.com.
Right. Yeah. Calm, Headspace, similar.
15 minutes. I have like a 15-minute little session.
Absolutely.
Find a quiet spot, turn it on, and go at it.
And the best part is, like, a minute is better than 0.
Yes.
5 is better than 1.
Yes.
Right? Like, 1 is definitely better than 0. 1 is like exponentially better than 0 because you were applying effort into it. And so 0 is your enemy. Right? 0 is your enemy.
There should be a whole brand around that. All right, UJ, put that in the journal. 0 is your enemy. We'll start that tomorrow.
Good stuff.
Yeah, man. Yeah, meditation's, the benefits for it's just exponential. There's like no downside to it.
Yeah. And especially if you combine that with good thinking, journaling, movement, surrounding yourself with great inspiration, surrounding yourself with excellent humans that are similar in a value set and are working on themselves in a similar way. Like, this is enjoyable, right? This is an enjoyable life. This is a life worth living because, again, back to the Buffett and Gates, I think they're great almost memes or ideas for like, even people with significant resources aren't working on themselves the way I would imagine they would be working on themselves. That's really interesting. Okay. So this whole industry of improving yourself and the drive to improve yourself is not a super common thing. Fascinating. It's a market.
Yeah, there's a market. I think also people try to build Rome overnight. They got to focus on one thing.
No.
Same thing when you go to the gym.
No.
I always tell people you don't have to go to gym. Like, if you can do like 20 push-ups a day, there's your start.
Exactly.
Walk 20 minutes. I don't know, something.
Yeah,
what's the most minimal viable thing you can put in?
Exactly.
So same thing when it goes to like improving yourself. They try to do everything all at once. Same thing with health, right? It's like, I'm gonna clean diet, then go to the gym and do something. I'll look at the people like, no, it's not gonna work.
No, again, they don't understand the first principles of habit change.
Work.
Right? They don't understand the first principles of habit change.
Yeah.
Right? There is a setup cost. There's a significant setup cost to any new habit or behavior that you're going to inject into your life. And trying 2 or 3 things at the same time is not going to be effective because it's not going to stack. Right? It's like lifting 5 bricks when you can only lift 2.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to get exhausted. You're going to get dejected, and you're going to fail. You're not going to know why you failed.
Correct.
And you're going to give up because now you don't have an actual rudder, an understanding of how to move forward in a way that makes sense. Of course. And this happens over and over and over again. So, there's a market. Yeah. It's interesting, man.
I'm excited for like a combination with psychedelics and mind improvement.
Oh yeah. That's a whole new world too, right? See, so the cool thing about psychedelics is you add fuel to all this fire that already exists, right? You have the meditation, you have the movement, you have the journaling, you have the really smart people that we have access to, and then you add psychedelics to that. You get some magic right there because you already have a strong base. The fundamentals are strong. Mm-hmm. Your ability to interface with life in a way that allows you to learn and grow on a daily and weekly basis is significant. Right? Your ability to to navigate life is strong. And then you have things like psychedelics that allow you to inject awareness into your life at a rate that was previously not possible. What they do is they improve the rate at which you can inject consciousness into yourself. That's powerful because through all of these habits and through connections with good therapists, coaches, etc., you can stabilize the consciousness, right? You can inject this consciousness into yourself, metaphorically, obviously, and then you can start to allow that consciousness to settle into your day-to-day life. So you can bring that love and that care and that attention and that drive to your work, to your friends, to your family, to your relationships. That's a powerful thing. Because to me, I think psychedelics obviously are in the last year or two become quite popular. And I see the indiscriminate use of this shit a lot, man. It's annoying and it's concerning because these are powerful things that cannot be used indiscriminately.
Hopefully we'll see in the next couple of years legalization of at least mushrooms.
Exactly.
Psilocybin.
Exactly. That'd be nice. But something that gets often not talked about is the integration piece.
Correct.
Right? And the integration is super important to life. Forget psychedelics for a second. Like, what is an integration skill set? The integration skill set basically is the ability to learn something, like get an insight, and to be able to apply it in life such that you've learned from it. So let's say you get into an automobile accident because you ran a red light. Okay. A very basic example of integration is learn what happened there. You know, were you drinking? Were you driving? What caused you to move past the red light? Did you not look both ways? Did you not clearly realize there was a red light there? What happened? And the ability to apply that. Okay, I didn't look, or maybe I was drinking. Maybe whatever the person has done, the person starts to apply. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to do this in the future. Basically, that skill set amplified and refined is what you need. So let's say every conversation you have is a conversation that you can learn about yourself, the other person, and slowly, even just a slight layer of refinement to the next time you interact with them or the next time you interact with someone else. It is a growth mindset. It is the ability to pull information from the outside and allow yourself to refine every interaction, every iteration of what you're doing. Taking that to psychedelics can be powerful because now you have such a strong influx of consciousness. You're like, wow, this is cool. You learn a shit ton about yourself and the universe at large. And then you write that down. And then you go, okay, how does this change my life? And then you start to list it all out. And you start to list it of the actions that you need to take as a result of this experience. Bam. And that fundamentally changes you in a way you would never have been able to change yourself. Because this access is a powerful thing. So that's what I'm excited for. Obviously, the economy and that side of things is also quite interesting. The investing around some of these startups is interesting. The ecosystem in Canada is really cool, man. It's growing because we have a few friends in the industry as well. And it's great to see the work they do.
Yeah, I'm excited. My hopes is legalization. Well, my hopes is all drugs are legalized.
Yeah, sure. Controlled, legalized.
It's safer.
Yeah,
it's better.
Yeah, because I would not want them over the counter, man.
Listen, even over the counter stuff like Advil and aspirin is dangerous.
Absolutely.
Overuse.
Absolutely.
My general philosophy is eliminate the black market, legalize all drugs, make sure if people want it, they have the most purest, cleanest form. And another form, even though I'm against taxes, another form of tax revenue for the government.
That's fair.
You can look at Portugal. Portugal decriminalized most drugs, and their statistics are good for people, less time in jail, less addicts, and also a better educational curve as well. It's just safer. You're not going to stop people from doing what they want to do.
Exactly.
Give them the best and safest option as possible.
And you eliminate the black market, which is huge for a lot of reasons. Also, you eliminate the impurities and just the lack of great material that people have access to, because that causes a lot of debts and ODs and this and
it's
that.
Still nonsense. Off tangent, it still befuddles me that prostitution is illegal.
I didn't know this.
Yes.
Okay.
Especially when you take into the statistics of sex trafficking, abduction.
Oh man.
And you're telling me you're not legalizing it? No. Legalize it.
No.
Streamline it. No. Fucking remove. No. I think people really underestimate how fucked up, how bad, the numbers of sex trafficking there is.
No.
It's no joke. It's obscene.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest markets for that is the illegal black market of prostitution.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, there's a lot of stuff in the world that befuddles me, man. A lot of stuff. Yeah, this is the world we live in. And
well, that's why we change it day by day.
Exactly. You know, learn to embrace it. You learn to see what you can change.
We'll end this podcast, which how we started the podcast is I can't change the world, but I can change myself.
Exactly. Yeah, one person at a time.
Yeah.
It's the best we can do.
Yeah, man. So, we covered a lot.
We have.
Thank you for sharing all this.
A pleasure, man.
Guys, make sure you don't just passively listen to this. You know, just like any good podcast or Audible or book, re-listen to parts that resonate with you. You know, I'm a firm believer in any medium of knowledge that you take in, you view it as any relationship. It's not just transactional, it's multifactorial. You know, one book that I always recommend people to pick up is How to Read a Book by Mortimer Adler. You know, meta-analysis or meta-reading. In today's time, meta-reading isn't just reading, it's absorbing information through podcasting like this or through YouTube. And so people assume they have to sit through A to Z. They don't. Find a section that you like and don't just listen to it. Like if you enjoyed what UJ was talking about, first principles or meditation, take that section out and actually make a checklist for yourself. You know, what are action steps from here? Okay, I'm going to go read Ray Dalio's First Principle or read How to Think Clearly by Rolf or etc. and actually make a roadmap of actionable steps that you can take after this. I think, you know, we touched on this. It's seldom that people do follow-up process. In one ear, out the other ear. So less is more. That's all I'm saying. Less is more.
Yeah, I also recommend just pulling out a journal and a pen and paper and just like asking yourself the questions that matter.
Yes.
Right? You know, start with how am I feeling right now and why, and then start to write about the thing that is on your mind. We're all dealing with something, right? We all are, and put it on paper.
Yes.
And ask yourself the questions. You know, what's going on? What do I know for a fact? What am I struggling with? How do I move through that? And what do you learn from this podcast, right? And put it all down, because if you do, the chances of your follow through are going to be higher. Because it's hard to sit down with something, write something, have it stare you in the face, not do too much about it.
UJ, it's always a pleasure when you come on.
I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. If people are looking to find more information about you, what's the best resource?
The best way is find me on Instagram.
Okay.
Find me on my website. Subscribe.
What's the Instagram handle?
UJ Ramdas.
Okay. Twitter or anything? Facebook, Twitter, or just Instagram?
Just Insta.
Okay. UJ Ramdas on Instagram. And guys, if you're listening to this on iTunes or Google or wherever else, please make sure to leave a review. Those always help. And if you're watching this on YouTube, leave a comment below. I check all the comments on a daily basis. Like, share, and don't forget, subscribe. Till then, guys, this was another episode of Amir Approved, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Take care.